A former high-ranking state health employee fired over a personal email she sent to Spokane's Board of Health is hoping her wrongful termination case will be heard by the state Supreme Court. New at 10 tonight, Kyle Simchuk sat down with the woman's attorneys to talk about the case.
When Spokane's former health officer Bob Lutz was fired during the middle of the COVID pandemic, there were protests. People put up yard signs, and health board members received hundreds of emails criticizing them and administrative officer Amelia Clark. Erika Henry sent one of those emails, and months later, she lost her job at the State Department of Health.
So in your opinion, does this case boil down to free speech?
Oh, yeah.
Marshall Casey and Marcus Swiester are representing Henry in her wrongful termination suit against Washington Department of Health. They say Henry sent the letter from her personal Gmail account on her own time and made no mention of her role as DOH Acting Assistant Secretary for Emergency Preparedness.
At the time, was speaking out because she has 2 children in our public school system here in Spokane, and her husband's also a teacher. At the time, there was a debate going on in the community that involved Bob Lutz about whether or not schools should reopen.
A few months after sending the email, Henry visited Spokane Regional Health with the newly appointed Secretary of Health, Umar Shah. Henry told us what happened in an interview last year.
When we walked into the meeting, there was a planned ambush against me for the email I had written at that point, approximately 4 months earlier.
Henry was investigated by the Department of Health and fired. Bob Lutz, the person she spoke out in support of, was hired by the state.
One of the interesting things that they're also stating about her is she shouldn't have signed it. She should have remained anonymous. And honestly, that's an amazing statement that if you work for the government, they own your name. You have to be anonymous.
Henry's lawsuit has moved from Spokane Superior Court to federal court. Now her attorneys want the case in front of the state Supreme Court. However, Assistant Attorney General Jacob Brooks is asking a judge to end the lawsuit ahead of trial. In documents filed last week, he says Henry's email caused a substantial disruption to the operations of the Department of Health, adding the Supreme Court has recognized that the government may impose certain restraints on the speech of its employees that would be unconstitutional if applied to the general public. A federal judge will hear those arguments this August. In Spokane, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.